Hello and welcome. My name is Amber, and at the beginning of this year, I put myself on a book buying ban. So here is my 22 book haul for the first quarter of 2026. So first of all, I will start with the physical books. So I got Dark Prince and Dark Fire. These are books 1 and 6 in the Dark series by Kristy and Feehan. This is a series about the Carpathians, not the mountain range, but a species of immortal beings. The male of these species are drawn to their mates, which are either fellow Carpathians or humans. I don't know much more than that, but I believe each book follows a different couple. I'm going to imagine that there's an overreaching plot between the whole series, and I really hope there are, because I think there's 30 odd in the series, and I think if it just follows different couples each time, that it runs risk of getting really samey and quite dull. So I'm hoping for an overreaching plot. So I do have a few of these series now. I've got them behind me. The first book I got as a teenager, and I think it was the 18th book. It was part of a bundle in a magazine. I thought it had been Scholastic, but considering the content, I think I'm misremembering. I do know the bundle were all urban fantasy or paranormal romance, and I do know that not one of them were the first in the series, but there were 4 books from different series, which wasn't ideal. I've read all of them. The one book from the Dark series that I've read, I don't remember it very well at all. I'm sure somebody was looking for someone in some woods or a forest, and I think that's all I remember. So I'm pretty much going into the series completely unaware of anything going on in it. The rest of the books I got because a friend of mine saw Dark Possession on my shelves and said that she had the rest, did I want them? So she gave me a load. I then realised that they weren't all of them, and that crucially, one of the books that was missing was the first book. So that's where these came from. I then purchased these. I am thinking of doing a reading vlog for this series, though I've not heard anyone really talking about this series, so I don't imagine many people will care. But maybe I will, maybe I won't, we'll see. So I then bought books 1 and 2 of the Into Darkness series, Lights Out, the first one, and Caught Up, the second. These are by Navessa, and I know this is a stalker romance. I don't know if this is as well. I have started reading this. I'm about a quarter of the way through. I've had to stop though because I was reading books for the Goodreads Winter Challenge, and now I'm reading books for the Magical Readathon, and this doesn't fit into it. So once I've done with all that, I'll get back to this, hopefully. I am enjoying it. It is about Ali and Josh. Ali is a trauma nurse who in her spare time likes to watch masked men on the internet. And Josh, I believe he works in internet security, and in his spare time is a masked man on the internet. They have met previously, and when he realises that she's one of his followers, he decides to have some fun with it. I'm enjoying it so far. I much prefer Josh's point of view than Ali's. At the moment, I'm not really connecting to Ali's, but I am with Josh. He seems like a complete sweetheart, which is a bit of a surprise going into a book about a stalker. But hopefully I will start to connect more with Ali as the book goes on. I'm not that far into it, so it's not that much of a big deal that I've not connected to her yet. Then in regards to Caught Up, I don't know much about it. I'm assuming there's motorbikes, and it's probably going to be another dark romance. So they are dark romance, but they're also classed as rom-coms, I believe. So they're a little lighter than some of the other ones out there. But again, not so far in, so I don't actually know how dark it gets. But I've heard not very, but we'll see. Moving on to audiobooks, but keeping in a similar vein, I bought Hunting Adeline by H.T. Carlton. This is the second in the Cat and Mouse series, and it starts off pretty much exactly where the first one ended up. So our characters are in danger, and I can't tell you much more than that, otherwise it spoils the first one. But I will tell you a little bit about the first one. So the first one is about Adeline, who moves into a haunted mansion. She is left that by her grandma, and over the course of the book she learns a bit more about her grandmother and things that happened to her in the past. She also learns that not everything that's watching her in the house is a ghost, but that there is a living, breathing man there watching her as well. That is Zaid. And just like the previous books, this is a stalker romance, so they fall in love with each other. So I have already read Hunting Adeline. I enjoyed it, but I don't think it lived up to the hype. I do talk about it a bit more in my February wrap-up. I will leave a link to that in the corner and down in the description as well if you want to hear more of my thoughts. But this is a book haul and not a wrap-up, so we'll move on. So the next ebook I got was in a completely different vein. It was still romance, but it was a lot more wholesome, and it was definitely not a dark romance. This is Where the Wildflowers Grow by Tereh Shelton Harris. This book, I think it's actually considered healing fiction as well. It is about Lee, who is on a prisoner transport bus when it crashes. She is the only one who survives and decides to take the opportunity to escape and make a new life for herself. She ends up finding herself working on a flower farm where the people there have their own demons in their past that they are working at overcoming and doing quite a good job. Through the course of the book, she starts to deal with her trauma from the past and starts to heal. She also starts to fall in love with the owner of the flower farm. I have read this one already as well. I also enjoyed it, but I found that it was a little too sickly sweet in places. Again, if you want to hear more thoughts, then you can check out one of my wrap-ups. This one would be the March wrap-up rather than the February one. Then for another book that I've already read, that's How to Kill a Witch by Zoe Venditozzi and Claire Mitchell. This is a non-fiction about witch trials. A lot of people enjoyed this book and found it informative and funny. For me, it didn't really work for me. I struggled to pay attention and I often had to reread bits and I just got quite bored and the humour didn't really work for me either. But again, I will talk about it more in my March wrap-up if you want to check it out. Okay, so my microphone ran out of battery, so I'm on microphone 2. This one is a bit of a shit microphone. Hopefully it's not going to make noises throughout this whole video. The next book is I Came Back For You by Kate White. This is about Bree, who 10 years ago her daughter was murdered. She is finally putting her life back on track when the guy who is convicted of the daughter's murder dies and on his deathbed confesses to 4 murders, none of them being her daughter. The closure that Bree was starting to feel is now gone and she's back to trying to figure out what happened to her daughter. Then I got Cursed Kingdom by Ember Blackthorn. This is about a 23-year-old who is invited to a masquerade held by 3 brothers. She is confused as to why she is invited, as she is entirely normal and knows nothing about magic, but apparently she is the only one that can break their curse, and they take her back to their kingdom, and I believe that this is a romance involving all 3 brothers and her, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Then Tea and Alchemy by Sharon Lynn Fisher. I'm not going to lie, I bought this purely because of the name. It's set in 1854 and is about Mina, who starts to see shapes in the tea leaves of the tea room that she works in. After seeing a dark omen, she then discovers a dead body. The villagers immediately suspect Harker, who is a local recluse, and Mina is excited to discover the truth. The next ebooks I got because I signed up for the Sarrao Society newsletter, which looks to celebrate and highlight fantasy romance. In February, they teamed up with a lot of indie authors to bring 3 books across 14 days, I believe it was. I missed out on some of the books because some of them were only available on the day and I wasn't very good at keeping up on them. Others, however, were available for a few days and it's possible that some of them are still available now. So some of these books are the first in the series. Some of them are standalones and some of them are prequels. I believe that any of them that are prequels or novellas, they are ones that can be read as standalones. So it's not going to require you to have read anything else. So first was Into the Bargain by Colleen Cowley. This is a novella about Pen, who's a young woman who, if she doesn't find a husband soon, will be forced to live with her uncle, who she doesn't seem to like. For some reason, this husband has to be a wizard, but I don't know why. I feel that the book will probably explain it. She has a particular wizard in mind, and in order to make this happen, she is offered a bargain by the wizard's assistant. In exchange for a magical brew that will guarantee that the wizard chooses her, she must perform an unspecified favour. Now, to me, This doesn't sound like a great bargain, because who knows what that favour will be, but I have a feeling that she's going to take it. The next book is Dragon's Mark by Isla Elrick. This is about the mage Magdalene. I'm not sure how her name's pronounced because it's not spelt Magdalene, it's spelled Magdelene, and the only thing I can think of is Magdalene. So she is married to the dragon Epiphron. A mind-altering blood sigil appears on the dragon's skin, and he starts to become a monster. Seeking to save him, Mag uncovers a betrayal that's linked to her own past, and I believe she also needs to use forbidden magic, which runs the risk of turning her into a monster as well. We then have The Kiss That Killed Me by Kristy Nicolle. This is the first of the title Kiss trilogy, and is about Cowley, who meets her soulmate on the beach. She discovers that he has fins and her life changes forever. She soon finds herself within an underwater civilization, and while she's trying to navigate the changes that brings to her life, a banished race of corrupted merfolk turn up. They believe that she is the key to a war that will change the power dynamics and will overturn mer rule. Then Blood Queen by Caitlin Denman. This is the first in the series of the same name, and it's about Layla, who is known as the Blood Queen. Despite her name, Layla wants peace in her kingdoms, which is made difficult by growing dissent, rebellion, and murder. She hopes that marrying a foreign prince will stabilise her kingdom a bit more. Between Mischief and Magic, I've not written who this is by, but I will insert a picture and let you know. So this is about a drunken demon who is just kicked out of her house. She runs into a runaway princess who is in a tavern searching for her magic. They strike a deal, which is that the demon will help the princess find her magic, and the princess will secure her a position as the royal advisor. Then there was This Is Not Love at First Sight by T. Harlowe. This is about Liam and Lowen, and they are rival chefs whose families have competed with each other for centuries, and it's always one of the family members who is the castle's chef. In this generation, Liam has won the position, and Lowen is left working at her family's failing tavern. She gets a chance to help with the royal feast, but while she is at the castle, there is a snowstorm that leaves Liam and Lowen snowed in. Then there's The Healer and the Warlord by S.C. Grayson. This is a prequel novella to the Balan Desert trilogy. It's about Alex, who's the sheltered daughter of the Lord of Clanpadra. She has great healing magic, but is kept under her parents' constant watch. Then she is kidnapped by a rival lord. The next book was The Warrior Prince by Ashley McLeo. I'm not sure what this one is about, as it doesn't have any information about it on Goodreads. And then A Demon's Cocktail with Sambuca by Ariana Jade, who is also known as Arizona Tape. This is part of the Forked Tail restaurant series and is about an angel and a demon who set each other a challenge. That challenge is to influence humans, and I would say that the demon is supposed to influence them negatively and the angel to influence them positively, but I could be wrong. The next book is The Green-Eyed Monster by Elsie Winters. This is about an art called Hierarch who is studying for his accounting exam, and the forest fairy Solandis who's trying to salvage her botany project. I don't know much more than that. Then we have Wildfire by V.B. Lacey. This is a prequel to the Elementals of Iona duology. I don't know what the prequel is about, but the duology looks to be about elementals who are summoned to prevent dark forces that are threatening to overturn the balance of nature. Then Blood Slumber by Vila Roth. This is the second in the Fated Seasons series, and it seems like book 1 and 2 are standalone novellas that are set in the world of the Bloodgrace series. I have heard great things about the Bloodgrace series, which I think is a political fantasy romance with vampires, but they're not known as vampires in this, they're known as something else. But in Blood Slumber, we follow former Princess Celadine, who is plotting to bring down the men who stole her throne, and to do this she needs the help of Troy, who has lost everyone that he has ever loved, until he meets Celadine and falls in love with her, which is what I'm expecting. They are all fantasy romance, so every bit of information that I've given you about the books, add, and they fall in love. So that is everything that I hauled across the first 3 months of 2026, and I have a question. Do free ebooks count against book buying bans? Because if they're not counted, That means that rather than hauling 22 books, I have actually only hauled 7, which is a lot better than 22 books. Although 7 is not great either, as that number is supposed to be 0. But if we take off the 2 dark books, because technically I bought them last year before my book buying ban started, they just arrived afterwards. That would then be 5 books, and 2 books I bought because of a reading challenge, and I wouldn't have been able to complete the reading challenge otherwise. So we can count them off. That's then 3 books, and Haunting Adeline was really cheap, so that could be 2 books. And 2 books is less than 1 book a month, so I have smashed this book buying ban. And I'm sure that you all agree as well. And I'm not going to see any disagreements in my comments. So like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see how well I do in the next quarter, and I will catch you in the next one.